Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Anfield Dream Podcast. Just wanted to share my thoughts really quickly. People reached out and asked, what I thought about, the structure, where the direction Liverpool is heading in light with all the things that's happening with Jurgen retiring and with, just the massive restructuring that's going across the organization. And from a larger, higher perspective that will impact Liverpool Football Club coming from the family sports group. Anyway, like I said, I've been a lifelong Liverpool fan, from forever, pretty much. I mean, it's literally the only football team I've ever supported. Been a athlete myself, and that's why I prefer to look at things from the athlete's perspective, not necessarily a fan perspective, but somebody who's actually played and competed, with different disciplines, and especially football, and also being a former chairman and senior executive, having worked with people groups all across the planet and very, very large corporations as well. And having run and built organizations myself, and having studied, healthy, multifaceted organizations, and that's the next step in growth, which I'm seeing, with Liverpool and with the love them or hate them. It's from a fan's perspective. It's fans tend to be more, tunnel vision and what the perspective that they want to look at, what they want to see, what they want to achieve, what they expect, constant performance and output, which is unrealistic. In a perfect world, yes, we would want that. And there are a lot of organizations who, in my opinion, are using, a lot of tactics, what I call corporate doping, to get the product on the field, and borderline, they run the outer edges of sketchiness and of the envelope of what is deemed, appropriate, or from a corporate perspective, borderline legal, if you want to use those terms. But whatever it is, I'm not in favor of that. I've always tried to be fair with every organization that I've been involved with, and to make sure it's done, in an appropriate manner that everybody can be proud of, and everybody can go to bed at night sleeping well, knowing that, hey, you did the right thing. It was the healthiest route. It was the best we could do with what we have and what was available, and it was ethical and moral. A lot of people, have their different parameters of what your baseline is for ethics and morality, but that's another subject altogether. But the bottom line is making sure that advantage is not gained through something that's questionable. Advantage is gained through something that's fair and done in on an above boards level, right? So there's an old saying: if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And there's a lot of people who come from the school that, hey, if you're serious about winning, you got to cheat. Well, I'm not from that school at all. I'm old-fashioned. I'm old school. Everything I've done and achieved in life is based on meritocracy. A merit. You have to be a meritocracy, and it has to be done above ground. It has to be. There cannot be anything that can be pointed against you. Lately, with all the financial fair play, and there's from a former chairman and senior executive, frankly, there's tremendous manipulation going on there, and there's tremendous bending from a legal perspective. There's a lot of stuff going on that's just not cool at all. So anyway, but that's another subject. And so, coming from a meritocracy perspective and watching the growth, I mean, I've commented in the past, I was very, very pleased when, the decision was made to bring everything under one roof with growth. And I want to look and talking about growth. This is what I want to look at. I know I haven't been feeling well, and sometimes my big old head's got in the way with, let me just get close that screen. The sun, angle has been pretty harsh. There, that's a little better, less glare. All right, I'm going to move all this away for now. And let's talk about healthy structure. All right. There can only be one head ultimately, but you have a lot of heads, up and coming heads in any healthy organization. So let's call this guy the head. All right. You need to have a top decision maker who has a clear and defined life expectation, growth expectation, and positive impact across the board for whatever the structure of the aims of the organization. So in this case, the discipline we're talking here is more of the entertainment industry, and within the entertainment industry, the sports industry. There are obviously a lot of factors develop, that are included that fall under that umbrella. But I'm just speaking in very, very broad terms here. So if you want to have a very, 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 growth oriented with clear strategy, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50, whatever, how many years you want to get out there, you first have to have a strong chairman and have these specific and a strong board at the very highest level to make sure these ideas and the plans and the vision is clear. So with the FSG model, with what I'm looking at, it's there are multiple areas that they're looking that I think are smart on their part, that have brought success with all the various sports ventures they've been involved with. All right, so obviously with any sports venture, first let's use this number 2 here. You need to make sure you have strong viability studies. And under that, I'm keeping this very general, guys, because it's every single area. There's huge stuff going on involved here. So you have to do your viability studies. What's the target? What's your market? I mean, what level do you want to compete at? Realistically, are you going to be at a low level, a mid level, a high level, or you want to be at a top, say in this case, a Premier League level? And within that, where do you want to be? You see yourself as a bottom half team, a mid team, an upper half team, or competing for titles and league. So obviously you don't get there overnight. This is where with some models, this is where they do the doping, and they just pump a lot of resources in and accelerate this on just by overloading and manipulation to get to this top spot where they want to be, winning titles and that kind of thing all the time. And it's basically using various factors in there, whether financially or whatever, the across the board to accelerate that to that point. And some people who want their clubs to winning all the time. They're excited about this. They're like, oh, we got all the money in the world, we got the back in the world, we got whatever. And and it's, to me, that's very unhealthy, and it's not my cup of tea. I like to climb up the rungs, steady growth. You're not like a rocket ship, and then when regulation changes and whatever, you tear off and you dump and crash, or you finally get found out, and then you get into massive mitigation, litigation, all these different things that go on, arbitration and actual court of law and various, and then now you got to hire very, very powerful lawyers and have a whole structure into your team just to cover up your obvious doping. And the common man is like, man, how do they get away with that? Well, it's way more complex than that. There's a lot of moving parts, and if they're going to be investing a substantial amount of revenue, they're going to make sure all the structures in place. So because they know they're going to be challenged, because they know they're bending and they're doping, they know they're doing that. And you talk about top athletes across the board who had fabulous careers and found out that the reason why they were so dominant is because they were doping. And everybody, individual organization that dopes, that will come to light sooner or later, and then their legacy will be blemished forever. In most cases, these athletes would find out they're going to be stripped of whatever they earned, whether individual or group. That is going to happen. It's inevitable. It always happens that way. And so, it's cheaters, quote unquote, cheaters flourish for a little bit, but at the end of the day, in the twilight, their legacy is completely tarnished and ruined. And yeah, they got the accolades at the time, but at the end of their life cycle, they're not even just in the mud. They're not even deep in the mire. They're way down in the sewer, just covered, and any mention or an association with that individual or that term, no matter what they do to make reparation and to admit their guilt and to do all this kind of things, because they lied so much with the doping. Later on, it doesn't matter how much reparation do, they're forever tarnished. Nobody's going to take them serious. They're forever tarnished. They're just done. This is why you don't want to do things, whether it's popular or not, with a quote unquote fan base, things have to be done smart. So first and foremost, it's get top level talent that's going to make sure then do all the viability studies and say, all right, what is our target? What is a realistic target? If you're new in this industry, realistic target is not, hey, we want to be the top team in a very short period of time. That's not realistic. Realistic is, hey, we want to be competitive in a very short period of time, and do serious studies about all your competition that's at the absolute upper echelon, and have some serious talks and studies, and they figure out how we want to do this. So that obviously, there's been a lot of work over the last decade, and we've seen that. So I know this video is going longer than what I normally would already, but I just wanted to reach out and touch base on some of this for you guys to help you, my perspective on it anyway, for what it's worth. All right, so you have your viability studies done, and you have a top department this will continuously operate no matter what, because you want constant growth, right? Then you have to have a second area with, okay, you got your studies in place. Let's start instituting, the results, the data that's gathered from these studies, and start getting the infrastructure, get started the logistics, just start getting all the foundation blocks that's going to make for a very successful organization, right? So you start appointing high level talent. Let's say, for instance, how do we want to structure this? We need multi-layer accountability structure from a top-down perspective, right? And then you go on to actual, all right, what kind of infrastructure do we need to be super competitive? To make sure that we're generating internally and not reliant on external. A lot of fans have this external mentality because that's how they've been programmed. Let's go buy the quote unquote finished article or close to finished article from somebody else who's trained them, and that person may not be. They might be very talented, but they may not meet your ethos. They could be very unhealthy for an organization, even though they're extremely talented. So we want to have set up a structure that you generate all that from internally. And then you have another group going along with the viability that's looking for, all right, now that we got this set up, let's make sure we reach out to all levels and find where we're going to get the best talent. And so a lot of things that gets overlooked. Say you have down here a talent source, that you can go to, I've traveled, all across the planet. You have kids that are barefoot, with tremendous control and so much talent, but the malnourishment, whatever, it's for them realistically making it to top level, as talented as they are. They'll absolutely get bullied and hammered, and it's just not happening. So, but still, you will always find, potential talent in those areas. And then another area of potential talent is the grassroots perspective. Go down to just grassroots level. Youth and potential out there. Have work, get very much involved in the community with that. Then you have your talent that's come through the academic scholar situation. Here in the States, for instance, it's It's you go all the way from down elementary, middle school, through high school, and then you have your draft picks. Some people come from high school all the way to clear to the pros. Some people go to the collegiate ranks. But whatever it is, it's you have a lot of data built up, and just from that perspective, from what you're looking for from an athletic perspective, right? And then in some of the, say, in the European-based cultures, even you see here in the States too. Now it's you also have a lot of organizations that say, all right, we want to take this next level. We want to actually develop our own academies where we offer absolute world-class top education in whatever our directives are, and make sure they progress also as far as their actual academic education and that kind of thing. So these are probably four of the most consistent areas where you would actually look for talent. And then you have another area where now you're looking at other organizations who are probably more mature in what they're done, because you're just starting out, right? And see what their structures and what's their talent, and start negotiating, trying to buy, invest in talent from other organizations that maybe want to sell or trade or whatever. And trade happens all the time in this industry. And so you have this whole baseline here, right? And then what happens is, once this gets extremely healthy, you got all right. So the guys up here, we could no longer just have one role. We have to duplicate ourselves, right? So what happens? Let's just switch out here and have this guy out here, and so move all this down. Move all this down. And we start another layer of another top boss. And then this guy, once again, replicates all of this. This is not necessarily popular with the fan base or people who don't understand, healthy structure. But people who do understand healthy structure and are visionary and truly understand, long term, what's going to be good for organization. This is extremely important, because now all of a sudden, now you're not going this number 5. Remember, you're looking at talent from other clubs. You would still be looking for talent from other organizations, but you've replicated yourself in a completely different market, in a quote unquote. This guy here has done all the research and continues to do the research and goes, hey, let's replicate this in this other market, because we're seeing, extremely strong talent and potential cross-pollination, potential, it's taking our guys here, having this 5 again, once again, it's replicated. It's replicated again. Let's call it like start for the next group here, right? For the next one. So 11. Let's do this, right? All of this is replicated again here, just to give you guys a visual. So you have the same 5, and now what happens is, you're running 2 organizations in a completely different environment, completely different ethos. I mean, not ethos, but culture. I mean, everything's completely different. The commonality is sourcing and nurturing and growing talent. So what this does is it's hey, say for instance in the European market, for instance, it's things with after Brexit, they're not the same. The relationship between the UK and their layers of legal progression and legal regulation is very different to Europe now. So it's easier to maybe route great talent to your primary organization through to a market that's seen very promising from a European perspective, and tap and say a South American or African or other source of very strong talent, right? And you can route them through either directly here or through here, depending on if they can't come directly into the first choice organization, then they can come in through the other first choice organization. And you see how this becomes a very, very healthy thing, right? So you're not only sourcing, from raw talent on the streets, from grassroots, academic, progression, like from elementary, middle school, high school, whatever, draft picks, college, whatever. and then you have your own academy. Then you're sourcing from structures of other organizations who have similar and sourcing talent from their academies. Now what happens is you're still doing all that, and you're still doing that in each prospective market, the same thing. But say you have some top talent and you really want them here, but because of regulation, that's not possible. But in this country or continent or wherever the source is, that is possible. So you bring them through this source and develop them. At the same time, you have people here that you in your academy that's very strong and they're very talented, and you want to give them proper game time instead of loaning them out to somebody where they're in the hands of another organization and you're hoping they'll do the best by them. You now say, hey, you're a great talent, man. We're going to take you. Let's say and move you out here. You can develop here, and likewise, people here, move them out, you develop there. And there are cultural differences. There's so many things that are different, and like we talked about, several weeks ago, the four most important things of having a healthy organization. It's the emotional strength, spiritual strength, mental strength, physical strength. All right. Obviously, the very first thing to go is going to be, they're going to look the obvious. If you go scouting, you want to see their physical acumen. These guys, are they technical? Are they talent? Do they have what it takes, etc., etc. That's all like stuff you get on FBref or you get on a lot of these databases. There's so many guys, so many of them out there, guys. Some are more familiar in the European side, some are more familiar in the North American side or South American side. I'm more familiar because I've worked a lot with Americas, but and obviously great talent sources, resources throughout the Americas, right? And so there are a lot of sites that have these stats. So you basically you said, all right, this is the first prerequisite. We got that down. All right. The next thing is then they do actual studies. They work with individuals. If they have, clear promise, it's just, how are they mentally? Or how are they mentally? How strong are they? They're going to wilt under pressure. What's the capacity? And like the making of a top, a military individual, which I have a good understanding of that. You push them, you stress them, you try to break them. You see how they responded under duress at whatever level they're at, and that basically takes this athlete or this individual structure and gives them the opportunity to say, all right, he's moving up, and eventually has potential for a first team slot, right? And then you look at the spiritual side. This is purely, say, coming from a military perspective, right? This is something that's huge. It is absolutely massive. It cannot be understated because people have a strong, spiritual connection. Is there? People have a strong spiritual connection. Is their outlook is not individual, where you might have some great individual talent. Their outlook is, as an individual, how can I serve the goals of the entire organization, as opposed to as an individual, what can they do for me? So the person's like, oh, I want to be the highest paid player, yada 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 yada. Whatever that is, their motivation is wrong. These are going to be disruptors. They're going to tear up. They're going to create a lot of conflict, and they're just going to make the organization very, very unhealthy. And we've seen this. We've seen organizations like this. Even now you see them. A lot of great individual talent, but they're a horrible team because it's all about them. They want to do their solo thing, whatever. So this is extremely important if you want to be successful. But it all starts with, there's a reason why emotional, spiritual, mental, physical. It all starts with emotional. This is the number one killer, regardless of organization. When you have some supreme talent, in this case, we're looking at sports, right? In this case, when you're somebody who's extremely talented, it's how are they under pressure? Let's say they have all these three: the spiritual, mental, physical, is strong. But if they're weak emotionally, and they're going to be the classic story you hear all the time, where they're always apologizing that they put out statements that we regret the way we acquitted ourselves, or we regret the way we acted, or we regret the way we said, we apologize, and they're constantly apologizing. You do not want weak emotional people. Nobody's perfect, right? You have a situation once, we cut you some slack. But when that situation becomes serial, where you're always apologizing for something because of your inability to have grasp over the way you quit yourself and your decisions in that time, in that moment where things were you under a lot of pressure, under a lot of duress, this is what accounts. The difference between a tougher side and a work-class individual comes down to their ability to control their emotions. No matter the situation, they might have missed a sitter, but the very next time they get an opportunity, they do an outstanding, ridiculous world-class effort and go boom, back of the net. You're like, how's that possible? This guy just missed a sitter. When you're emotionally strong, it doesn't affect you, it doesn't get in your head. You see a lot of people, who are very weak emotionally, they immediately drop their heads, or they start, gesticulating in all kinds of fashions, or start pointing and yelling and cussing out a teammate, or blaming this or blaming that. No. Even when the odds against you and you get terrible calls from referees and apologies, guys, I've been very sick. Emotion is not just it's not just on the bottom level when you're dealing with talented players. It has to be on top down. Your chairman cannot be emotionally weak. All these clear players who are basically the foundation blocks and foundational leaders cannot be emotionally weak. When you decide to expand and go to the next level, where now you have great training facilities, great academy, over the years you've seen extreme talent. You've seen the fruits of your labor, bringing everything under one roof, and where the kids get to watch and play and interact and watch the first team players work, and these are all healthy organizations. And now you've gone to the next level where you're replicating your healthy organization with another healthy organization in a completely different area. And you allow clear paths of progression, from players here who need more from here and need more exposure and experience. You send them to this completely different area and say, let's see how they perform in this culture. Taking a player from, say, an English culture and say moving them to a Portuguese, or moving them yet even more drastic, say, to a Brazilian league where the language, everything is different. What you eat, wear, dress, everything, and see how they perform there, especially if they have family, see how they adapt, right? Because family has a huge impact. And just to try out, who they're leaning on, their agents, their who they're getting their advice from. That has a huge thing. How many times have you heard of players saying, I really wanted to be at Liverpool, but I regret you because at the time so and such and such was circumstance and this was an advisor and they advised me wrong and now I lost my chance and years later I have huge regret. That's on these individuals here. But when you have strong emotional, leadership from top down, they will help, from a third party eye. These people are completely disconnected from this, and they have to be for it to be healthy. They look at stuff, purely from a data perspective, from all the analysis they get from different psychological analysis, mental capacity analysis. They have so much that goes on, guys. It's not just an FBRF, or it's not just one of those statistic, how many goals, how many whatever, what's the heat map. That is just one phase. That's just down here. That's step one. And I've seen so many people, especially, I've never been into social media. It's the first time, people have encouraged me to get into, and share my thoughts on YouTube. It's and frankly, it's been difficult, because with my health challenges, but I'm trying my best to put out what I can, when I have the energy to do something. I was talking to my wife this morning, said, babe, I feel a little bit of energy today. Yesterday was extremely rough, and a lot of people have been reaching out to say, hey, Raj, what's your perspective on this and that. And so, especially with now that, Edwards is back, Hughes has been announced, and we're now they're looking for the ideal candidate from purely a managerial perspective. Obviously, you will not get another Klopp. He's just unique. And there are a lot of very strong opinions. Most of them are emotionally driven. Some people get in their head that, hey, this is the perfect candidate, and this is why. And it's the job of the people out here. None of these people have emotional ties. They cannot. They have to be completely free from subjectivity and objectivity and everything else that goes on into this. They got to look at it purely at hey, this is character, is the emotion strong? Will he be a team player? Is he spiritually strong? Is it all going to be all about him, or is it going to be about everything? Not just Liverpool Football Club, about the city of Liverpool, the ethos of Liverpool. Klopp got this. He is a German Scouser now. This is why he is so loved, and this is why he's also so hated by everybody else, especially like people like the Manx and the Schooners and all these other, trashy organizations. I just call them spade a spade. It's like I'm loyally unbiased, yeah, but also from so like I said, some of the way some of these organizations have been run, I'm not a fan of their style of management. I'm just not. Nobody's perfect. FSG certainly is not perfect, but I can work with them. All right, I can work with them. If I were a consultant, if I were brought on to give, just a non-biased, just being hard business, hard data driven, hard looking from emotional perspective, spiritual perspective, mental perspective, physical raw talent perspective, having somebody who understands running large organizations and appointments, and even though you're very close to somebody, but they're just not working out, have either reabsorbed them elsewhere based on what their talents are, or just very cordially on a mutual level and say, hey guys, it's not working out, let's call it a day. This is what top chairmen, this is what top bosses have to deal with, right? And so it's never pleasant firing anybody. It's not working out. And you got to look out for the entire organization. It's nothing personal. There's no emotional. I have no emotional attachment to anybody. I love them all. I want the best for them. But but if you're a chairman, your purview is the entire organization, and not just the organization. How much impact that has on the global space, right? And Liverpool Football Club is a global club, and like from the branding perspective, look at how much they've grown under the purview of FSG. What they were a decade ago to what they are now is night and day, guys. Love them or hate them, they have done an outstanding job there. Look at what they've done in development of facilities and growth, and from I know there's a huge cultural difference between the UK culture, global culture, US culture. But the bottom line is, say, for instance, the US, there's a huge fan experience. There's a huge following experience. This is very, very important. People from the UK, they don't understand tailgating. They don't understand anything. They don't understand. That's a completely different culture. They're starting to, like even in Liverpool now and some of the top organizations in Europe, you're starting to get fan experiences. Because it's not just British people who go to Anfield. There are a lot of people who invest in. I invested a tremendous amount when I had the opportunity so many years ago when I actually went to Anfield. Touch the sign. This is Anfield, and I like that. I like what Shanklin did. I like all of that. You're not welcoming anybody. You're just telling them, hey, this is Anfield. You're going to get slaughtered here. Period. Wipe the smug grin off your face, because we're going to deal it to you. This is certainly not a warm welcome. You're coming here to do battle on our turf? Are you serious? It ain't happening, son. You're going back in body bags. As a former warrior, that's the mentality. It's not that you're murdering them, but figuratively on the pitch, yes, you are. You are here to completely neutralize, eliminate the enemy. And whoever comes into that stadium, even if they might have been a former Liverpool star, but they're now transferred and moved on to a different team, you're no longer a Liverpool star. You have joined the enemy, and we're here to annihilate you. Period. No questions asked. No emotions tied. You have to be ruthless. That's how it works in the real world, guys. You have to be ruthless. Anyway, so this is why I'm very pleased in the progression. I know it's a subject that some people are like, what is this multi? Because they see certain organizations and their styles. Like I said, I'm not in that corner, but I understand what Edwards and the group here. They're like, all right, Liverpool has done extremely well. It's time to take it to the next level and develop a cross-pollination that's going to make this even more powerful. And in an ideal world, if you're able to replicate this in, say, the top 5 markets on the planet, you will be in a dominant top-tier space pretty much forever. If you can capture and replicate this in the top 5 5 sources, the top 5 markets where this is the thing, where football is the thing, the business here, what you're looking to your, the impact here for the communities, for that city, for that town, for that village, for that country, for that continent, the impact and influence that you positively that you're going to bring for the club to elevate it and say anywhere on planet Earth, hey, wow. When you do it right, it's they're not going to be competing against each other, guys. When you do it right, all right. A lot of this, some people have this well, what if we're both line up for the Champions League, whatever. So this is where it's the way I would do it right now, personally me. There are 2 choices, 3 choices. Realistically, based on infrastructure, based on paths of bringing talent to a British marketplace, somewhere in the South American space that's friendly towards regulatory entry into the British marketplace will be a strong candidate. Somewhere in the African space, a little more challenging there because of regulation. There, and I'm not going to get into that from a business perspective, but it's a little bit more challenging with the continent, even though there's a tremendous amount of talent there. I have played, say, for instance, with one of the clubs I played with, Super Eagles is basically Ghanaian based, and we were just working with them. It was just working with youth there from displaced youth because there was a lot of things going on at the time, and some top talent, great technical ability. The primary issue we had with these guys was the ESM portion. And you're not blaming the individuals. They were under severe duress politically. There's so much just emotional stress. I mean, basically they were PTSD even before we got them. So we had to work on this, getting that stronger. With this, the spiritual side, they trusted nobody just because of the situation. A lot of them were lucky to get out of that situation, where they were with their lives. They've lost so many family were just lost. There's so many tragic genocide and different things going on. This is why I was in an organization that's reaching out to these young people and who, and just trying to give them get them a vehicle where they could rebuild. And so this was basically not even there. And mentality-wise, you can see why. In these 2 areas, it was non-existent. What they did have was tremendous athleticism, a lot of technical skills because they've been, controlling a ball barefooted, on dirt patches, for a very long time. From the time they basically could walk, from the time they could crawl, they're like with the ball at their feet. Tremendous talent. Very, very, very raw. But this could be so the primary focus was working on this. And as this grew and they understood and their confidence grew and their confidence in humanity and that people were out there to butcher them, these are people who genuinely loved them, cared them, nurtured them. And once this takes years to develop. And once this was proven, it was like, hey, man, we found some genuine people who actually care about us and have us, there, with their best interest in mind. All of a sudden, youth from across all this war-torn and situations. And then obviously we had a lot of work with other regional areas that also had a situation, but because of their religious background, they basically wanted to murder this group, and this group wanted literally. I mean, it's just ethnicity issues, religious issues, and where they were taught so many years that this individual is the enemy, and so we have to kill him, literally kill him. And here we're showing them, hey, no, that's not exactly the case. That's what you were taught. But we are human beings. We're here to look after each other, et cetera, et cetera. And once they got past everything that they were brainwashed with growing up, told by what they were taught, they're like, hey, maybe you're right. And there's so many situations where sworn enemies, youth, now they're best friends. And, I got to personally witness that, and it was a beautiful thing. So like I said, the African continent, there's so much potential, but this area, the ESM, is going to be very difficult there. South America also has these issues, but not. It's just there's more potential for a path through from the South American side. So those are the 2 areas I would tap into. When it comes into Europe, from the continental side, there are lots of options. And you can look at some of the top 5 leagues, and this is where a lot of business people will go and say, hey, let's just look at what's going on, this country or that country. If I were to pick a country as a base for what Edwards and I'm looking to do now to take us next level, to me, probably the most potential would probably be a country, a marketplace like Portugal. I've seen a lot of talent. There's a lot of the similar stuff going on there, but it's not as difficult to overcome. Another marketplace that, because of bias or whatever it is from the European side, they really need to look at the North American source. Because, having lived across the planet, multiple countries, and obviously, lived here in the US, being an American myself, it's, guys, from this perspective on, here and here, both the academic route and the academy route, there's a reason why some of the top talents, and if you watch the Olympics or some major international events, it's the reason why the US always does fairly well, is because they have a very mature structure when it comes to talent resources. And I know it's just people are like, hey, MLS, this, that, whatever. It's, if you go back and look at the history, soccer, what they call soccer here at a high level, it's not just MLS. There are clubs and organizations in this country that have been battling for over 100 years. Yes, over 100 years. There is top pedigree here. And as this route has grown for potential top tier athletes, now that it's with the advent of everything that we have in the modern culture, you're seeing now some of the top athletes going, hey, maybe not just the gridiron American football, maybe not just baseball, maybe not just hockey, maybe not just basketball. Hey, there's also an opportunity with football, soccer. And you've seen the caliber of U.S. athletes, that the top caliber of U.S. athletes now looking at soccer literally as a viable source, another route to go, hey, and now you see, a lot of top stars, and I call retirees, come here and do well. And a lot of them who are still prime and come here and do well. And they realize that, hey, the culture is very, very extremely competitive. And there's a lot of options. So I know I've rambled on a lot longer. It's probably the longest video I've done. But I just wanted to share my thoughts because a lot of you have reached out to me. Please like, please share, please subscribe. We can go into more in depth if you guys want that. I know, guys, I've been very, 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 very sick. I've been having a lot of, frankly, life-threatening situations that I'm dealing with, and my wife's helping out, my nephew's helping out, and a lot of times, they manage all the socials for me. And I just try to share my thoughts as they relate to me. Hey, so and so's asked about this, so and so's asked about that. I tried my best, but frankly, when you get in responses, you'll be getting responses, from their perspective, and I like that because, different generation, different whatever. My nephew understands, the current generation because obviously he's my nephew. It's just I'm an archaic dinosaur, when it comes to the current culture and what's out there. But from somebody who's been there and worked with over 100 people groups worldwide, on a very high level, I understand structure. I understand what it takes to run a very huge, and understand expansion, how to develop it correctly. There's no perfect formula, but but it's just nothing beats actual experience, right? And so hopefully I get to hang around and be around and share, as much as I can, my thoughts on all of this. And so, like I said, from the outset, from starting this channel, I'm not your typical fan. Yes, I'm a lifelong Liverpool Football Club supporter, but it's not just about Liverpool. I love Liverpool. I'm only going to talk about them by bringing thoughts across, multiple genres, just multiple businesses, multiple, everything, and sharing, what little I've learned over now well into my 6th decade, of experience with real life. All right. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. You will never walk alone. Let's go, Liverpool. Let's do this. Let's keep plugging away, and only wish the best for the entire organization as we're going to move into next level stuff. I love Jurgen. He's been phenomenal. He has earned his retirement. He has done so much for us. I love or hate FSG. Nobody's perfect. People have mistakes, along the way, but understanding how this works they have done an exceptional job. I don't necessarily agree with everything they do, but they can be ruthless business people. I've seen sports business that they've conducted here in this country, and the pressures of always having to put a championship side that's going to dominate and win. And if you do it healthily, that is not realistic. If you're going to dope, you can get away with it, but you will get found out eventually, and it's not going to be pretty. And some of the clubs and organizations currently in this space have been doing heavy doping, and they are being found out. And when regulations, start having teeth, and they go back and look at history, they might get away with some stuff. But history will show that the only reason why they were successful at that period of time is because they were doping. All right. Talk soon, guys. Take care. And once again, these are just my views, my appointments, my opinions, just based on what little I know when it comes to running strong organizations. And in the athletic space, I've been a multi-discipline athlete, but my primary sport has always and always will be football. Right. That is the love of my life. All right. Talk soon, guys. God bless y'all. Talk soon.